Like every year, Pokemon Day was announced for this coming Thursday, the 27th, and it's exciting news. I love Pokemon Day. It's like 80% trash that I don't care about for some weird-ass mobile games and, like, nonsense. But then there's, like, that little bit at the end where they show the new actual game, and, like, yeah. Last year we got Legends ZA announced, and that was really cool. I look forward to Legends ZA. But it's been a year and we haven't heard anything about this game yet. So I expect to hear a reasonable amount about this game. It's coming, right? Like, we're going to get it this year, I assume. So I expect to see some of that game. Also, rumored it's going to come in, like, the summer of this year or something. So maybe time for maybe we get a second game announcement, which is really what I want to talk about. What can we expect from this Pokemon Day Direct? And like I said, we're going to get the nonsense in the beginning. No one cares about any of that. I'm not talking about Pokemon Sleep and Go. I don't care. But I do really care about Pokemon Legends ZA. I just want to see the starters and, like, at least a little bit about what the game is. Because Legends is only one game in the series. There's only one Legends game. And it's, like, it takes place in the past, and it's doing this whole, like, different kind of gameplay. And I really like Pokemon Legends Arceus, so I want to see more of that. But this game looks like it doesn't take place in the past necessarily. It may take place in the past, like they're building the city, but it could also be more current, and they're building up the city. That's not, like, it looks a little too modern in the brief images that we got. So it's hard to tell exactly what we're doing here. So without any real information, I don't know what to expect with this game, and the rumors are that this is going to take place just a couple of years after Pokemon X and Y, and we're going to be expanding the city. And that's cool, that's fine, but I kind of just want to know. And I want to see what we're doing. Like, is this going to be like Legends Arceus again, where you are mostly just running around catching Pokemon and the battling is kind of taking a backseat? Or is this going to be something completely different? Is this going to be historical? Is this going to be more in the future? Is this, if we're staying within, Lumiose City, I think, the one area, how are we going to see all these Pokemon? It's not it's a large-ish city, but it's not a huge city, right? Like, there's not, like, snowy mountains and the desert right there. So, like, how are we going to see all of the Pokemon that were in X and Y? Are we going to get different Pokemon? What new Pokemon are we going to get? These are all things that I think are pretty obvious questions, but, like, it's been a year, and we've learned nothing. And with all the rumors going around, I kind of have some concerns. I don't really get that concerned with Pokemon games. I'm very easy to please. I just want to catch little creatures and battle with them. That's really it. I just like the world of Pokemon. I like running around and just goofing off in that. So I'm always happy, for the most part, with every mainline Pokemon game that comes out. There are some better than others. There are some I prefer. But I'm usually pretty happy with them. I don't take a whole lot to please in this regard. But I'm a little concerned about this one. I'm a little more concerned about this one than I usually am, just because it's been so long since we've heard anything, and the rumors don't sound great. They're not saying anything necessarily bad, it's just not what I expected from this game when it was announced. Again, they're talking a more futuristic game, like modern Pokemon with a modern Pokemon art style, like a Scarlet Violet art style, which is fine, but I don't think it's the good art style for Pokemon. I think it's kind of one of the worst looking Pokemon games, to be honest. I kind of like it more than Sword and Shield, but it's not my favorite. I really like the Let's Go style. I wish we just got more of the Let's Go art for Pokemon games, but that's a different video that I want to do. My point here is we don't have any information, and when you don't have information, the rumor mill becomes, crazy. And with no updates to kind of detract from these, and they just keep building on each other, I'm disliking more and more of what I hear. And to be fair, I'm going to buy this game no matter what, right? Like, I'm going to pay for this game. I'm going to buy multiple copies of this game, because we both need a copy, at the very least. And I'm very excited for the game. But I kind of just want the rumor stuff to be put to bed, to put the rest, We know what the game is, we know what it looks like, because then I can get excited for the game. Right now, I was excited, and now I'm a little more concerned because I'm not loving the way the rumors are making it seem. I don't really believe the rumors, like, super heavy or anything like that, so it's like, you know, this doesn't sound great, but I'm willing, I'm gonna wait for Pokemon Company to release it, and I'm just hoping it ends up better than what they make it sound like. But that's really all I expect to see from this Direct, is Legends EA. That's all I'm looking for, that's all I want to see. But of course, the Pokemon community can never stop at enough. They want more and more and more. And despite them saying that the games are bad, and that they look bad, and that they need more development time, every time these games are coming out, or a Direct is announced, they're like, oh, let's see 3 more Pokemon games. And it's like, maybe not. I would take Pokemon spinoff. Like, we get Conquest added to the Switch, like remake Conquest for the Switch or something, or like make a Conquest 2 for the Switch. That would be fantastic, but I'm okay without anything addition. Like, I really wanted Pokemon Snap. That was like my Pokemon game that I've been waiting for a sequel. I got it on the Switch. I'm happy. I don't really care if we get any more Pokemon spin-offs on the Switch. I think we have plenty. But if we do, that would be nice. I'd be interested in seeing that. But of course, that's never what's rumored. Instead, we have the same rumor that's been going around, I want to say, since, like, Sword and Shield era games. Like, it's been forever. Every year we get this exact same rumor. Guys, it's not going to happen. It's never going to happen. They're not going to release this. People seem to think that there is going to be a 2 separate collection of games from Gens 1 to 3 with a red side and a blue side of Pokemon games. It's going to be, red, fire red, gold, and ruby, and then blue, leaf green, silver, and sapphire. Which, firstly, kind of doesn't make sense, because, like, how does Japan get their version? Like, do they get blue, or do they get green, and then they just don't get the blue? What happens with yellow and crystal and the other games in these series, Emerald? Like, it's not like a very fit together concept, right? But let's say that, in Japan it's green, leaf green, silver, and sapphire, and then, we just get blue and leaf green, right? That makes sense. The third game's, another rumor, not the same one, I think, but like a separate one, is saying that you're going to get these games as, like, one collection, and then there's one that's saying it's going to be 2 separate collections, one for, like always, 2 games, and then the third game in the series, so Yellow, Crystal, and Emerald, will all be digital released. But, like, why? Why wouldn't they just add all of this to NSO? These systems are all on NSO. Why would they not just put it on there? So that's a little weird. You could say, well, again, part of this rumor is the Pokemon Home support. Could still be on NSO, but whatever. We're going to add these for Pokemon Home. Okay, that's interesting. That's cool, but, like, I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing this being real. This sounds like fan wishing. It does. It sounds like what people want. And don't get me wrong, I would buy this in a heartbeat. Of course I would. Why wouldn't I, right? But it doesn't sound realistic. It doesn't sound like something they would actually do. I could see them releasing this digitally to NSO. I could see them maybe doing, like, a Gen 1 collection of all the games, and, like, that might get a physical release or something. But they're not going to put Gens 1, 2, and 3 onto a single cart for sale. They're not going to do that. That's never going to happen. They're definitely not going to split it into 2, although that sounds more likely in theory. In reality, that's just weird, right? Like, if they're going to split it, you're probably more likely that they split it by just generation. And I know that kind of sucks because, like, well, Gen 1 has 4 games, Gen 3 has 5 games, and then Gen 2 only has 3 games. You say you sell them all for $6. Gen 2 is really getting the short end of the stick here. That's fair. They could just do, like, red, blue, yellow, gold, silver, crystal. That's 6 games for $60, and then the Gen 3 games are Game Boy Advance games, so, like, they're more They're more money. You get 5 games for, $60. I could see that. It's not going to happen. But, like, if you're going to make up a rumor, in my opinion, that sounds significantly more likely, right? Like, Pokemon, the Game Boy Collection. Pokemon, the Game Boy Advance Collection. Whatever. That at least, I guess, sounds, like, realistic. Like, I just don't see them breaking the generation into 2 games and having multiple generations in it. That sounds ridiculous. That sounds like fan-made nonsense. And to be fair, there's no, like, backing to this rumor. I just think it's funny, and also we talk about this every year for Pokemon Day. They're like, no, this is the year. We're getting the collection of Pokemon. 1 through 3, it's coming to Switch. It's not going to happen. Don't get your hopes up for this. This is not going to happen. The other big rumor, and this is another one that's been cropping up for a little while. I do not know why people thought this was going to come. The way we've gotten remakes has been every other generation, with the exception of Gens 3 to 4. We got Fire Red Leaf Green, then we got Heart Gold Soul Silver in the immediate generation. And then we did not get a remake for Gen 5. And then for Gen 6, we did get a remake. And then we did not get a remake in Gen 7, although we kind of got Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, but that's like a spin-off remake. That's a little weird. I guess you can count that, but you see how it went back to like Gen 1, because that's the, we had to start remaking the older gens. If we're going to get a remake during this generation, Generation 9, it's not going to be Black and White. It's going to be Johto. The last generation we haven't been to is Johto. The generation we haven't been to in the longest amount of time is now Gen 2. Because that's what got remade during Gen 4, and we just had Gen 4 remakes. So we haven't been to Johto since the DS. So it's not going to be a Black and White remake, right? Like, that just doesn't seem realistic. That doesn't seem like a realistic thing. And you might say, well, yeah, but we're getting ZA, which is a, Gen 6 remake, sort of. And, that's not the next one in line. That is correct. I don't know what they're doing with ZA. Or, Z never existed anyway, right? We got Pokemon X and Y, and then they did nothing else with it. There was very clear-cut stuff from that never got explored. And then with the leak that came out about a year ago now, we've seen that a whole, like, part of Kalos just was never added to the game. So it's pretty obvious that there was going to be a Z made. There was plans for an X and Y 2 or a Z or a something, and it just didn't happen. Right? Like, it just didn't happen. This theory makes a lot of sense because a lot of stuff from Generation 6 gets kind of pulled over to Gen 7. Right? Like, Mega Evolutions are only in X and Y, Omega Ruby, Alpha Sapphire, which are both the Gen 6 games, and then in the Gen 7 game, Sun and Moon. That's the only time we see Mega Evolutions. I guess there's a couple in the Let's Go games, but again, that's a very different kind of game. It's very limited to what's in it. Those 2 generations feel very put together. We also get Zygarde. All of its forms are in Sun and Moon. That is stuff that is clearly cut from being in X and Y. That was, supposed to be the big thing for Z, and they no longer had it, but they was going in the anime, so they had to put it in something. So it just got shifted into 7. We had Ash Greninja as a pre-order bonus, just kind of shoved into 7. These are all things that I think were pretty obviously made to be in a Pokemon Z that just didn't exist. It never got made. And I think that's why we're getting Legend ZA. They're going to take a lot of the ideas and stuff that would have been in Pokemon Z, and they're just kind of retooling it to be in this game later. And that's fine. That makes sense. Again, it kind of screws up the flow of remakes, but it's fine. But again, I don't think that has anything to do with a Gen 5 remake. I don't think a Gen 5 remake is coming on the Switch. If we get a Gen 5 remake, it's going to be on the Switch 2, probably with Generation 10, which makes the most amount of sense, at least to me. I think if we're going to get a second game announced, it is going to be a Pokemon for Gold and Silver. At the best, we're going to get a Gold and Silver announcement. I could see us getting Let's Go. What were people calling it like 5 years ago? Togepi and Pichu or something. Let's Go Marill and Togepi or whatever they were calling it back in, when this was a huge rumor for the next generation. I could see something along those lines. A new Let's Go style game for Generation 2, maybe even as like a launch title, like a launch window the first year or so of the Switch too. Mostly because, just like they did with Let's Go, it's a sort of easy way to kind of work your way into the system, learn the development for it. And it's cheap, it's fun, and it takes us back to Generation 2, something that again has been very long forgotten at this point. We haven't gotten a Gen 2 game since Heart Gold Soul Silver. That is a long time ago. As much as I love Heart Gold and Soul Silver, most people are not spending the money to play that game. This costs like $300 or something. And to be fair, this is like, the big fancy box and everything, but like, this is an expensive game. And I don't think people are going to spend the money to play this. And you have to buy a DS to do it. Now, granted, you could just, play it on your computer or something. That's perfectly fair. That's reasonable. But these are two things that people just don't want to do. Most people don't want to go out of their way to download this old-ass Pokemon game onto their computer. It's just not realistic, right? I know people do it. I know it's a thing, but, like, it's not as common as people make it seem. Also, people don't want to spend that kind of money on a game. Especially an old game. It's just not, again, this is not as common as it seems. There are a lot of people who do collect games now. It's not like a new hobby or a niche hobby really anymore. It's kind of become a popular thing. And that's fair. That's fine. To me, they're just like movies, right? Like, I don't sell my movies when I play them. I watch them, and then I'm like, I really like this one. I'm going to keep it, because I'm going to watch it again. I really like this game. I'm going to keep it. I'm going to play it again. I've played that game a million times. So, I get the idea. But no one's going to really go out and buy that. Like, you're not taking a chance on a $300 Pokemon game, right? Like, that's unrealistic. So, there isn't just a good way to play Generation 2 anymore. And you could say the same thing for Black and White. But again, Generation 2 is older, so that's the one that's probably next. And that just makes sense to me. Also, Black and White's a problem, right? Like, what do you do for Black and White to remake it? You can't just make Black and White 2. You can't just make Black and White. You have to make Black and White and Black and White 2. So that's 4 remakes. Or you just make Gray and Gray 2, I guess. Kind of just combine the two. That's fine. But that's rough, right? Like, that's a lot. Black and White just needs more to make it into a new game. The remake for Black and White is just going to require a little bit more effort than I think people understand. With us just getting the remakes for Diamond Pearl, with us just getting the remake, or a new game in Arceus, with us just getting Generation 9, now we're getting ZA, I don't think the next thing to come out on the Switch is going to be Black and White and Black and White 2. I think that's a little ridiculous. If we're going to get another game this generation, it's almost guaranteed to be something Johto related, in my opinion. And realistically, I think that Legends ZA might just be the last Pokemon game on the Switch. I think with that, we're done. We're going to move into the Switch 2 now. That's going to come. Switch 2 comes in probably this holiday season, but like, we're going to start hearing about it. The next game is probably going to be for the Switch 2. I don't think Legends ZA is going to be cross-gen. For some reason, that's a rumor. I don't think Pokemon's ever done a cross-gen game. Like, even Gold and Silver, like, they're Game Boy Color. They're Game Boy games. They have better functionality on the Game Boy Color, but they are Game Boy games. Crystal is a Game Boy Color exclusive, but that's, like, not a new generation. The Game Boy and Game Boy Color are considered one generation of system. Like, it's one thing. It's just better screen, really. I don't think they've ever done a cross-gen game. And they're not going to start now. That doesn't really make sense for their business model. There's really no reason for them to do that, right? So realistically, what's going to happen is we're going to get ZA this year. That'll be the last Pokemon game on the Switch. And next year, maybe late this year, but realistically next year, we'll get like a Let's Go style game. I'm not saying it's going to be Let's Go, but something in that vein. An easy remake, probably of Gen 2, and then we'll move into Generation 10 and stuff after that. It should be noted that the Pokemon 30th anniversary is, next year, right? So maybe we get, they're probably going to want to do Gen 10 next year for the big, 30th anniversary celebration. That makes a lot of sense as well. And I do think we have to keep that in mind. Not only did they do this with Sun and Moon, but this is just something that they like to do. They like to celebrate anniversaries. And 30 years is a very long time. So we'll probably get a big celebration for that. I would say the most likely thing here is we're going to get probably ZA early this year. It's probably going to be that summer release. I could really see that being a real possibility. Followed by a fall release of, again, a Let's Go Johto type game. Something simple, something smaller as the first Switch 2 game. And then, next year they hit hard with Generation 10, the big, celebratory game. I think that's a pretty easy flow to follow for this going forward. Happy to be wrong. They could just give us ZA and then we get nothing for the next, year, and then next year we still get the Gen 10 game. That's perfectly reasonable as well. I think that's the most likely option, by the way. I think we're just going to get ZA and then Gen 10 next year. That's it. I don't think we're getting a third game. But if you want to, follow the rumors of a remake coming, I think Johto's the most likely one. And I think we'll get a Gen 5 remake during Generation 10. I think that makes the most sense. But yeah, that's really all I have to predict for the Pokemon Direct, or all I wanted to talk about with the Pokemon Direct. Can't wait to watch it. Thanks for watching. Bye.